to welcome the Minister to the House. I always enjoy when Senator Mooney gets up to speak of late, where he acknowledges quite rightly that tough decisions have to be made to clean up the mess of previous governments, that he struggles to use up his 8 minutes, so he'll have 3 minutes of cracking jokes and having a few jibes at the government side of the House. But in any case, on something that he did say about the cost of living as a result in the north and the south as a result of the 2% increase in the VAT rates, I was listening to the radio last week where there was a survey done of prices of groceries and clothing in north and south with the inclusion of the 2%, and it was proven that it's cheaper to shop south of the border and not north of the border. Minister, I want to thank you most sincerely for taking on board everything I said to you pre-budget in relation to the carers allowance and the half-rate carers, and I'm glad you took on board everything I said, because there was no financial gain whatsoever to be gained out of even looking at a possible cut there. In relation to the redundancy payments issue that other senators have talked about, I too have concerns about this, Minister. Because, last week I had a call from an employer that employs 93 in my own area, and he just feels that he might just now have to press the eject button before Christmas to avail of the redundancy package that's in place at the moment, and he has been hanging on by a thread for a long time, just in the hope that things would get better. But with this threat over his head now, as I said, it's an eject button situation. In relation to the disability allowance proposed cuts that I've spoken here about in the past as well, I always had a problem with somebody aged 16 going to second level and on to third level education, getting disability allowance and getting a qualification and getting a good job out of it, while we were giving them a social welfare payment that was suggesting that they'd never work again in their lives. So I mean, there's certainly that kind of issue has to be looked at. And whereas I fully acknowledge there's a big difference between severe and profound disabilities as distinct from the mild ones, that maybe some people with mild depression are getting disability allowance, and their wives getting carers for looking after them, while they also have nixers working on the side. And I even heard Senator O'Brien on about an epileptic man that's working. There's plenty of other epileptics that are getting disability. So there's every possibility there that people with disabilities are able to work. In relation to the child benefit, like everybody else, Minister, I think it's time that we looked at the child benefit from putting a cap on it, where over that cap nobody gets it, or else we bring it into the tax net. And certainly something that Senator Healy-Eames said about the first, second and the third child, the first child being the dearest, of course that is true. And I welcome any measures that you have introduced like that, because how many times, and I'm sure every senator in this House will tell you, like obviously your first child you buy your buggies and all of that, but yet the mentality down through the last number of years was that all you had to do was go into get to a community welfare officer, get a buggy today, and in 3 years' time, if you're going moving to Dublin, actually we'll leave that buggy in County Roscommon and we'll get another one off the welfare officer in Dublin. All these things need to be looked at. With regard to the widow's pension, I do have concerns about the proposed cut or the increase in the number of stamps that the widows may have to pay. And I know probably what you're trying to achieve there, Minister, was maybe to alleviate situations where people had multiple pensions. But for the lady that will only end up with a contributory widow's pension, I think myself that the contribution of 156 should be left. And maybe look at other situations where you have teachers getting pensions and also getting contributory widow's pensions. Those kind of areas need to be addressed. The self-employed, I've raised this on numerous occasions in the past. It's time that they were treated the same way as the ordinary taxpayer. Allow them the opportunity of paying a voluntary contribution so that in their time of need that they can avail of something back from the state. And one other issue, Minister, and I raised this before in the Seanad, and I've raised it at our own meetings down through the year, or the last couple of years, and that is, if it costs an average of $21,000 a year to keep somebody on social welfare, if we were to offer employers the opportunity of getting 10,000 a year from your own department to take them off social welfare, give it to the employer to employ them. If we created 100,000 jobs by doing that, Minister, we would be saving 1.1 billion per year on our social welfare budget alone, plus the fact that they'd be paying tax and all of the other things, and we'd be making more. You could be, out of that 100,000, it could be worth the goods of 2 billion to the economy every year. And just finally on to the CE schemes, Minister. It's a big issue, and I know that you have offered a window of opportunity and hope there to these schemes. They're all very concerned. They all do great works, and they most certainly do great work in rural Ireland, where in small villages all you see in the line of employment activity is community employment workers. I attended a meeting last night, and it will devastate the community employment scheme that I am aware of, and many others, because they simply can't afford to be reduced from 1,500 material grants down to 500. It's not going to work for them. That 500 is supposed to be a loan for training. So you're taking away the 1,000 that was there for material grants and other supports. And what they need to know, Minister, is what exactly can you do for them? Because last night they had no idea. What they have to do every year is sit down, do a business plan and submit it to FÁS. Now it's going to be SOLAS or whatever. But they need to know from you, Minister, like if they submit a business plan, you know, are they going to get the funding that they need? We're not talking about big money here, but we're talking about a huge return in rural Ireland. And just evidence of that, Chair, and I'll be finished now, is all the work, good work that the Tidy Towns committees are doing right across the country. Every one of them, as a result of the input of the community employment schemes, their marks go up every single year, and we have to look at the broader picture and the bigger picture. And the bigger picture here is we're trying to sell this country as a tourism product, and they certainly will go to places like South Kerry and Roscommon and places like that. If it is a thing that they see that the local involvement, you know, is portraying that area in a good light. And I'd like you to really look at that, Minister. Thanks very much.